somebody on our side as well a little later on. But with that, the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Casten, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for having me here. I think many of us in this room have at various points in our life won elections, and I think it is safe to say that there has never been a vote where there hasn't been one party with a vested interest in maintaining some portion of ignorant voters. That's sort of the nature of things. And I can imagine a world where proxy advisors would be on either side of that. I mean, goodness knows there's people who get involved in our elections who are sometimes less than totally honest. I get that. They say you should never ask a question without knowing the answer, but I'm going to take a flyer here, and I'd ask everybody in the room to participate. Staff, witnesses, raise your hand if you are currently managing $1 billion or more of somebody else's money. All right, we got one expert in the room, so I'm going to focus on you. To what degree do proxy advisors influence you, positive, negative, or neutral? Because if their purpose is to spread ignorance, presumably you'd have a concern on that.
They're neutral. They help us to sift through mountains of data. We talk with them. We have things that we are looking for. We have thoughts on how we want to have them conduct their analysis, and they're our partners. Just like any company would go out and hire consultants. The consultants don't make the decisions, they help them to make decisions. Just like you might, with your own personal finances, go out and hire a financial advisor. That person isn't going to tell you where to invest your company. They will give you advice, but it's ultimately on you to make those decisions.
Okay, so the only person in this room with significant experience, and for the record, I think you said 66 billion you're managing, seems to be, at least among that population in this room, it's unanimous. Now, as against that, we've got this whole, that we've been a whole term of this anti-ESG legislation. As recently as I think last week, Majority Leader Scalise said in an interview that financial institutions are investing assets, quote, in their most favorite woke fund, and it actually gets much lower returns for hardworking people. There are, at last count, 20 states that have passed anti-ESG laws to require states to divest from financial institutions because they consider ESG factors. Is anybody aware of any states that are mandating that people invest in ESG funds?
None.
Nothing. So I agree with you, Mr. Crane, we should not have one-size-fits-all mandates, but the only size we've got is 20 states that are saying, thou shalt not invest in this class of things because I hate capitalism. Now, if that was in fact in the fiduciary interest, we got the data at this point. So, Mr. Crane, are you aware of the Texas Association of Business, the Chamber of Commerce? Their members are ExxonMobil, Chevron. Were you aware of their analysis of the impacts of the Texas anti-ESG bill?
I have not read that specific analysis.
Okay, well, we'll introduce it for the record. It says that Texas lost $669 million in economic activity, $181 million in decreased annual earnings, lost 3,000 full-time permanent jobs because of that law. Again, this is ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips. These are not woke folks, right? Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Rural Association. You familiar with their analysis of what happened, what cost Oklahoma?
I'm not.
All right, they said $185 million, $11 million a month they're losing. Arkansas Public Employees Retirement System said 30 to 40 million lost, $7 billion just for teachers. I could go on and on down the list, but the point is we have these one-size-fits-all mandates that are mandating that people violate their fiduciary obligations because we don't want to be woke. We have one person on the panel who actually has experience managing money and has a fiduciary obligation who is saying information is good. Treasurer Frax, what would happen practically to your ability to do your job if we blocked access to proxy and if we said all states in the country now we're just not going to give you access to this information?
It would be very difficult to uphold my duty as a fiduciary. If we wanted to maintain the same standard, we would have to go out and hire a lot of people, costing the taxpayers more money. And I think that's part of the reason why study after study and meta-studies have shown that these anti-ESG legislation are costing states money. If you really believe in the free market, we should let people make decisions. As I started saying earlier, like if you were, I'm not a gambler, if you were to bet on sports, you've got someone's statistics on the back of their baseball card. You also want to have access to other information as well to help make a good decision, whether you want to start that person in your fantasy football league or not.
I'm about out of time, but look, as I said at the start, there is always one party that had a vested interest in uninformed investors, And I'm proud to be on the side of supporting investor knowledge, and someday I hope that it's bipartisan to make sure that investors have the ability to make informed decisions. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. With that, the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Rose, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Hazinga and Ranking Member Green.